I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Dan Carden, and I can't wait to talk to my guest today, and you are going to absolutely love her. She is an amazing woman. She has done some incredible things in the speaking world. And so, Lois Creamer, welcome to my show.
And I'm thrilled to be here, honored to be asked. Happy to be with you today.
I'm so happy to have you here. And I told her before we got on here, of course, if you're listening to the audio, you can't see this, but she is in my brand colors. She's in this bright blue, beautiful sweater. That
I should have said I planned it that way.
I know, you got the email, right? I love it. Well, we're going to jump right in and we're going to really talk about how to position and sell a speaking practice, how to really make money speaking. And she has written this book that I went out and grabbed called Book More Business, Make Money Speaking. And I have already been in this book and oh my goodness, I have to tell you, she's brilliant. She is brilliant. So I can't wait for her to share today. So, all right, we're just going to get right to it. You help people build speaking businesses, but you didn't start doing that. You have this incredible speaking background. So why don't you just dive in and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are right now?
Well, here's more than you probably want to know. My entrepreneurial journey started at age 11. I started walking dogs for money in my neighborhood and far surpassed all of my older siblings' earnings on their jobs. So yes. You could say that was the beginning. But, I'll share with you, I never really had planned to have my own business. This was never something that I had a long-term plan for. But right out of college, I got a great job with the United States Steel Corporation here in St. Louis, where you and I both happen to live, in corporate sales and marketing. A great opportunity for me. And stayed home a number of years, adopted a little girl after several years there and stayed home. And then went back to work part-time with a professional speaker who lives in St. Louis, very successful guy. Mm-hmm. And I never even knew speaking was a business, Ann. You could have, I was stunned when I heard you make a living doing this.
Yeah, you can do that.
Who knew? And so I started working with him part-time, thinking this will be a good job to get my feet wet back in the job market. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we had some success. I found the industry very interesting. I got invited to work with staff of speakers on selling and growing a speaking practice through National Speakers Association. And then I started thinking, most speakers really suck when they're asked what they do. And I think I have a better way for people to describe what they do. Okay. And of course, I test marketed some of this when I worked with my speaker. But I just thought, I'm going to go out and see how I do as a consultant in the speaking practice, in the speaking industry. So I did that. And I had some success right away because I had made some relationships working with this other speaker. And so was working as a consultant with professional speakers, speaking at industry conferences for speakers. Mm-hmm. And was hired by one of my speaker clients, had a separate business, hired me to train his salespeople. So I started doing some sales training and working with corporate sales teams on how to sell better. So I was doing that and working with speakers both. Stopped doing both because, quite frankly, it was too much travel. And so now all I do is consult with professional speakers, consultants, and experts. And the only speaking I do now are to groups of professional speakers here in the United States and around the world.
Right. And so now you're coaching them and yes, I love this. And one of the things you referred to is positioning.
Yes.
You help them get positioned better so they can land those speaking engagements and can get hired. And that's a big piece of what you do, right? And targeting all of those components that go into getting speaking engagements. So yes, I love this. And I love how you have built a business around it. But I want to talk also, because you took that a step further, you didn't just use speaking as your income. You also added on other products, other things, your book. All of those things are important components to building a speaking business. So what can you share about that? Great story, by the way.
Well, I can share that the days of getting on a plane, going and speaking, coming home and getting on another plane to go and speak are over. Back in the 60s, which was before my time in this industry, that's really the way speakers made a living.
Right.
In fact, I spoke at several years ago, I spoke at the Arizona chapter of National Speakers Association, and we have an international center there, speaking center. Presented there, and I went into this little room, the bowels of the building, kind of a museum, and there was a 33 1/3 record album of the gentleman who founded NSA. This was his first product, a record album of a presentation that he did. And can you imagine, he carried these albums around on a plane and sold them in the back of the room. And that was really when speakers started getting the idea there are other revenue streams besides just speaking.
Right.
And, but I thought, wow, things are easier now living in a digital world than hauling out record albums around. I couldn't even imagine. So, but I ask my clients to consider what are the ways they can repurpose the expertise they already have. We know that people like to learn in different ways.
Right.
Some people want to work one-on-one with us as consultants and clients. Some people would rather read a book. Some would rather take a course. Some would rather buy a product that you have, a digital program. And so I like my clients to think about the various ways that they can package other things that they do and how can they repackage into new things.
Right.
Creating programs, courses, that kind of thing with their intellectual property.
Yeah, there's so many options, and
really
you're
are.
right. The online world has opened up just so many options. How have you found things to change since the pandemic? And everything was shut down. Speakers couldn't go and speak, and a lot of people went virtual. But can you talk a little bit about some of the shifts that you've seen and what's happening now that is relevant to today versus how things were back then? Like it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. The pandemic, what a freaky time that was for us. And remember, when we first started shutting down, they said this could be 2 to 3 weeks.
And we thought it would be. I said, I give it 90 days.
I thought, well, this will be kind of a little time off, is what I thought, a little break.
Right.
I think that in many ways it was merciful. We didn't know how long it would last because it would have been too depressing and too challenging, quite frankly, for many people.
Yeah.
But one of the things, of course, great loss from the pandemic. In many ways, I always try and look at what are the positives that have come out of a difficult situation like that. For speakers and consultants, it has been the use of Zoom and other virtual platforms. This has become a really great way to present a great revenue stream. I just spoke last Friday to PSA, Professional Speakers Association, Australia, from where I'm sitting right now.
Isn't that amazing?
I have spoken to all of Africa, India in the last couple of years through the pandemic. And it's, when the pandemic was first announced, people just canceled meetings. They just canceled meetings.
Right.
Speakers saw their calendars just disappear, which is quite frightening, especially if you haven't done what we just talked about.
I was just going to say, if that's all you were doing and you had no other revenue streams.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So in some ways, it really hit home the importance of that.
Yes.
That we talked about. But corporations early on adopted hiring people, experts through Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a blessing. Everybody wanted to discount it to the nines, thinking that it was just so easy for us to get on and just do what we do on a platform in front of a camera. It is not.
It isn't.
I think in many ways it's more challenging. And, my sense has always been the value of my intellectual property shouldn't change just because of the media that I'm using to bring it to you.
I love that you're actually talking about this, because a lot of speakers were discounting their fees.
They were.
Yes. And that I agree with you 100%. You're bringing the value. It's not about how you're delivering that, for sure.
In fact, Anne, I got shortly after the pandemic started, I got an email forwarded to me from a client. It was from a speaker bureau, a very big one, very active in the speaking industry. And they sent out an email to their speakers that they had. And they said, as of today, we are discounting your fees by 50% for virtual presentations. And I said, you need to email them back and say, that's not okay.
Right.
That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. They, I think, this was the definition of a panic reaction to me.
Yes. Yes.
And they wheeled that back, which was really interesting. They rolled that back kind of quickly, but it kind of, I think it scared the hell out of a lot of people.
I'm sure.
But, it was a rash decision. I think that, and I was just asked this the other day about speaking in front of people or virtual. And should there be a difference in fee? As I said, I think the value of your intellectual property is the value of your intellectual property in the marketplace. However, being a realist, I think you can, when I used to speak to corporations, I offered a local discount. A lot of our colleagues do this. I offered 20% discount off my speaking fees if I could, if it was within a 100-mile radius of my home.
Right, because
I called it my sleep in my own bed fee. 20%.
Yes.
I was happy to do it.
Oh, I love that. I love that phrase too. Yes.
Well, and that's really the way I looked at it. I think that I have told my clients that if you feel you have to discount, offer a local discount. I will give you my local speaking discount since I'm not traveling.
That's
and that way, you're not saying the value of my intellectual property is less.
Yes, I love it. But, I want to bring up a point too, because, you talk about the value, but it isn't just the value. You still have all the same amount of time put into a presentation. And in some ways it is harder because you've got to make sure you keep people's attention and you keep them entertained. And when they're sitting in a room live with you, they can't do much, right? You have a captive audience, but when you have people virtually, it is a very different world. And for a lot of speakers, they had to learn those skills. They had to actually invest in new skills and a new skill set to be able to do that. So if you look at those things, it doesn't make sense to discount.
Well, I don't think it does. And I'll tell you, I've been kind of a contrarian on virtual, which wouldn't surprise people who know me. But if I'm doing a presentation to a group, I don't want people to mute. I want to hear feedback from them. I want to, if they're gasping at something I said, to hear that gasp. If they're laughing at something I said, I want to hear that. I said, when I show up on the platform, I don't ask everyone to put masking tape over their mouth. So I'm happy to hear your reaction.
That's really great. I hadn't heard that. I love it.
I like hearing people's reactions. And, I think that there are ways you can make it fun, but I do think that it's harder to keep an audience engaged.
Yes.
Virtually. I think it can be very challenging, and depending upon the program length. This is when I tell speakers, you need to be in consultative selling because you need to let people know what's the best use of you. Somebody asked me to do a 2-hour presentation, and I said, that just doesn't fly on Zoom. If you want to break it up, we can break it up. I'll do one day, an hour the next day. but sitting down and doing 2 or 3 hours straight on Zoom, it's a horrible idea. I don't think people are going to get what I think that they can get if you consider doing it my way. And so I think that we have to let people know this is the best use of me. My sense is from my experience. Mm-hmm. But Zoom can be challenging, but it has opened up a whole new revenue stream for a lot of people. And it's also opened up, I think, a lot of the post work that I suggest with clients that I call aftercare after your speech. Mm-hmm. How do you take a next step with a client? How can you go a little bit deeper? Help them to apply the ideas, tactics, and techniques that we talked about on the platform.
You're right.
And doing that on Zoom is just incredible. I originally started doing that when I was doing corporate sales programs, and I love not having to get on a plane, being able to continue.
Yes. Yeah, look at the time you save. I do have a question, though. So I love your idea about, so by the way, I run 3-hour Zoom rooms. They work, but I also vet the room. That makes a big difference. It's just not everybody showing up, that whether they want to be there or not, those people genuinely
that's the difference.
That's a big difference, right? But here's my question. I do mute the room. And the reason for that is because people are working from their homes. There's a lot of background noise often. Yes. There's dogs barking and there's people coming in and out. And so how do you do that? I'm curious how you do that.
Well, I ask people, look, if you're in a place with a lot of ambient noise, mute yourself. But if you're in your office watching, keep yourself unmuted.
Gotcha.
So we want people to use common sense in doing it. Mm-hmm. I have a dog who's barked at times, and I have to tell you, the world did not spin off its axis because he barked during the presentation. Shocking as that may be. But I think that we're more forging about things like that on Zoom,
which is not a bad thing, is it? It's not a bad thing.
In some ways, it can make us very relatable. I mean, this is just we're all doing the best we can, and so I'm very, I ask people to forgive any blips and flips that happen, while I'm presenting. But I do like hearing people during a presentation.
Yeah. So do you feel like, are a lot of companies and corporations, are they going back to having people do live workshops, or are they still staying very virtual, or what's sort of the vibe out there? What are people doing?
Corporations are back with abandon. Mm-hmm. And even though they did step up and started using virtual to keep the learning going with their oftentimes virtual workforce, they are now wanting in-person meetings. They're wanting it for the engagement factor and of getting everybody in the same room, because as we know, so many things have changed. Mm-hmm. Lots of people now are working from home permanently or part-time working from home, part in the office.
Right.
And so for the engagement alone, and I tell my clients, you need to tell your clients that for the engagement alone, it's worth it. But also, it's a great reason to get together to learn something.
Yes.
Heaven forbid we learn how to be more productive, more profitable, increase our performance. It's a great way to do it. So corporations are back. Associations, national level associations, canceled everything for 3 years. They just didn't meet. State level associations did virtually. Mm-hmm. National level associations did not meet virtually. And so I'm predicting 2023 is going to be the biggest year for national association meetings. There's going to be lots of business for speakers. It's going to be very competitive. Mm-hmm. Hotels are already seeing lots of money come in, deposits and they're thrilled and they need the money.
Right.
So things are coming back, and it's very exciting. I'm thrilled about it.
I love to hear that too. That's really, that's important. And you are on the front line. So I know that I'm getting such great information from you, and so are my listeners, which is going to be so valuable, because you have to know what's going on and what's relevant in the marketplace today.
And my market intelligence are my speaker clients out there in the market telling me what's going on. Right. I stay in touch with almost everybody I've ever worked with, quite frankly.
I love it.
And it's great market intelligence.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about, what do you actually do with people when you're coaching them and you're helping them with their speaking? Let's go into some details here.
Well, the first thing I always do with clients is the reason I really started my business. I alluded to this briefly, creating what I call a positioning statement, a concept and outcome statement to describe what they do. Because most of the time when speakers introduce themselves to me, and especially back when I was, before I had my business, you would ask a speaker what they did and they would say, I speak on sales. I speak on leadership. I speak on. Which to me is a real missed opportunity. You're giving people a topic, a vehicle and a topic.
Right.
And I always thought that's not a great way to position yourself at first blush in front of somebody. So I use what I call a positioning statement, a concept and outcome statement of working with you. So for example, if somebody asks me what I do, I don't say I'm a consultant in the speaking industry. I say I work with speakers, consultants, and experts who want to book more business, make more money, and monetize their message.
Boom.
Back when I was doing my sales programs for corporate, I said I work with organizations who want to fast forward their selling skills so they'll be more successful at what they do. And that was received much better than I speak on sales.
Right.
It lets people know, because what I know, and by the way, people will tell you I rarely say that, especially ask my daughter. I rarely say I know for a fact, but people who buy our services as speakers, consultants, and experts are buying the outcomes. They want to buy the outcomes that we deliver. So I say, let's talk to them from the beginning in the outcomes we deliver, instead of saying, and I'll work with you through my 99 leadership, through my 99 step leadership system. And your eyes are glazing probably.
Right.
But most mere mortals' eyes would be glazing, rather than saying, I'm going to help you fast forward your leadership skills so you'll be ahead of the competition. That says so much more. Now, I might give you my 99 steps when you hire me.
Of course.
To get there.
Sell them what they want. You give them what they need.
More than the process.
Yes.
So that's the first thing that I always do is create a positioning statement. Look at their core offerings. What are the core offerings you want to give to people? Creating some of the basic marketing materials that the people who hire speakers will insist that you have in order to be taken seriously.
Like worksheets and what are some of those things? What do you recommend?
Well, a great one sheet or a core offering sheet, I like to call it, a good bio, a great pre-programmed questionnaire, which I think is one of the best marketing pieces and one of the most underutilized in the world. Having great business photos is marketing materials.
Right.
And so things like that, having great video now is an absolute must. Having a demonstration video of you on the platform doing what you say you can do. People want to see that. And so those are basic marketing materials. So how do you take those then? My next step with a client would be, how do I sell myself? Who do I talk to? What do I say? What will they ask of me? How do I close a deal? Who should I be talking to? What target market should I be thinking about? I'm a big believer in targeting your time. It's the only way to approach something like this. I always tell the story whenever I'm doing an event. Somebody will always come up to me, Ann, and they'll say, I've got this great program, Lois, on customer service. It's going to be great. And I'll say, well, who would benefit from it? And they'll say, anybody. Everybody. So I always say, go call everybody and see if they're interested and let me know. And, because we can't call everybody, we just become inactive totally because we don't know who to approach.
Right.
So I'm a believer in choosing a target market, accepting anything that comes to you that is a fit in every way for your business, but only using your finite amount of time that you have to proactively promote yourself in a very highly targeted way.
Right. You just don't have you're right. Everything. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. Every target is going to be a whole different marketing campaign, different messaging, different everything. You can't do it. You just can't. So
It makes, you create a momentum for your business too.
Absolutely.
I worked when I was doing corporate sales programs. I did a lot of work in the financial services industry. And every time I worked for a bank, credit union, or accounting association, the next bank, credit union, and accounting association was more interested in me. So it makes your life a little bit easier. Plus, you can ask more money if you have a specific expertise.
Specialist.
You got it.
Absolutely. I love that. So what are the best markets right now, do you think, for speaking? Where would you see, let's take someone who really has speaking skills, leadership skills, helps people with communication. Where would you see a really good market for them?
Well, it's hard to give you a specific target market. I tell people this: what have you done in your background that might be helpful to open a door for you?
Right.
Now, interestingly, when I was looking at financial service firms, I really didn't have a background in that, but I didn't want to do manufacturing, which was my background.
Okay. Right.
I got hired by a couple of banks, and I felt like they really resonated with me. Insurance companies did. A lot of people who really maybe worked on commission sales had to be self-driven, liked my sales stuff. And so it really resonated there. And that's when I decided, I'm going to target this market, but I'll work with anybody who I think is a good fit for me and who I can really make a difference for. So look at an industry like financial services, and then look at the markets within that industry, like the ones I just said. Or in healthcare, look for hospital systems. Insurance still works in healthcare. The people who supply hospitals, and the myriad of associations. There's an association for everything, connected in that target market. You could never, from now until the end of time, contact a tenth of people
of the associations, right?
You couldn't.
It is such a great place for people to start, just because it's so easy to find them, and they're in every market, they're in practically every niche, every industry.
Yes.
And I've done a lot of association speaking, and I didn't do it always as a paid speaker, but I always got business from it, and it helped grow my business. So yeah.
Listen, this is so interesting. You just said this. I was just answering. Somebody had put on our National Speakers Association Facebook members page. Somebody offered me free speech. I don't know. I'm not going to do it. I don't think. I think my information is worth something. And somebody, Ian, commented, "That's right. Speaking you'll die of exposure." I mean, all of these cliches that we hear. And so I do this all the time. I came on and said, "I think that's a terrible plan." I spoke many times on association platforms and made much more money than a one-time fee.
100%.
Because I went after every butt sitting in every seat who happened to be a prospect. Yeah. And so, some people take a very short-sighted look and don't look at how you can leverage these things. But as you and I know, there's,
I built 6 businesses doing that. So yes,
there you
absolutely.
Go.
Yeah. In fact, I totally agree with you. And I always kind of cringe when I see people talk about, wanting to be a paid speaker, because one of the things I teach my clients is how to run 100K virtual events, how to make 100K from one virtual event. And same thing when they're even out there live. And so not being able to leverage that, people aren't expanding their thinking. They're not expanding their mind. So I love that you're talking about this.
Well, you absolutely, you have to. I think it's crazy not to.
Yeah. I would much rather have the back end.
Well, and I think, quite frankly, it's people who are earlier in their careers who have a more short-sighted view of this.
That's true. Yeah.
And as you're out there and you discover who's sitting in the audience and what a gold mine it is.
Yes.
It can be if you're choosing about, listen, I had on my sales website, at a separate website for my sales programs, I had a frequently asked questions segment. The first question was, do you speak for free? Answer, absolutely. I seek to do 10 to a dozen a year. if you'd like to apply to be one of them, certain criteria will apply.
Right.
If you'd like to apply to
qualify.
be one of them, let me know. That's exactly
Yes.
right. So
Yes.
I knew if I was walking in, and by the way, I never said speaking for free. I said, I'm willing to waive my fee
Right.
in consideration of value, like an attendee list, things like that. So I can really market the heck out of it after I leave. I think that there are great ways to monetize this, but I think it's short-sighted just to think, wow, I'm going to make X amount of dollars speaking here, when really, if you take a little bit of a deeper view, you can make thousands of dollars, reoccurring dollars.
Yes.
If you work it right and you can see in the longer term.
Yes, I love it. And you're such a seasoned expert. So for people to not listen to this information and take it and apply it just doesn't make any sense, because you are just really diving deep into what is possible and what they can do. And most people are not going to build wealth speaking, right?
Well, I don't think so.
And it's always really the next gig. It's like starting back over in your business. This is the way I look at it. Oh,
well, it's to me, it's like in the 60s, get on a plane, speak, come home, and then try and find somebody else who will pay you to get on a stage and speak, and then get on a plane, go home and try it again. It just, it's just not. Plus, I don't think it's a very satisfying way of doing business. To me, it wouldn't be.
Right. I agree.
I like speaking and then being able to go deeper with clients. When I was speaking, for example, on sales, being able to really actually have them apply and change the way they're doing things. People hire speakers typically for a transformation. Yes. So I want to see that through. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to work with them on it. So I would work with sales managers in a corporation after the speech to implement some of this stuff. Yeah. And that to me was more fun, which is why I really like consulting, Anne.
Yes.
I love seeing things change and seeing what happens as a result of that change. And I like a longer term relationship too. And I like my clients to think about that.
See, that's why I love you, because we think the same.
We do.
I always say people don't really get a transformation from reading a book. We know that.
It's absolutely right.
And they don't get a transformation from hearing you on a stage for an hour. Yes, they might get a nugget. Yes, something, might change, but it's not everything they need. And to me, Lois, and you can see if you agree with this, I think you do. If you don't give them something else or a way to work with you beyond that stage, are you really serving people? I don't personally think so. Not in the way that you can.
I think that you and I both know, probably not, but inevitably it's up to the client. They define whether we're serving them or not, but letting them know that a transformation is not going to take place in a 1 hour or 90-minute speech.
True.
The seeds of it can be planted, and then you can fertilize those seeds through some extra work. I think is serving them well and giving them a realistic picture of what you can accomplish. Inevitably, people hire me to deliver on what they want, what outcome they want from bringing me in. Then I'm a consultative seller on telling them how you really can get the most out of it.
Exactly. Be the expert and show them what they need, because they don't know. I say this all the time to my clients. They don't know. Don't assume they know what.
I say it all the time too.
Don't assume they know what they need. They do not.
Yeah, you absolutely need to tell people. People need, people wait to be told what to do, Anne.
They really do.
We at our convention in Nashville, National Speakers Association, one of my clients was on the main platform. Incredible speaker. She was in Belgium speaking, and she was in a hotel, brought her husband because it was just going to be a fun trip for them. Very successful. Middle of the night, over the intercom in the hotel room, they announced that there was a fire. People needed to evacuate. So she said, we grabbed our backpacks that had everything we needed in it. I pulled on my jeans, my coat. We left. She said, when we were leaving, people were opening the doors of their hotel rooms, Ian, looking out saying, what are you doing? Do you think we should leave? Asking her as she's evacuated. And she said, yes, I think we should leave. They went downstairs. They put everybody in the back of a parking lot. And she said, you could see flames on top of this hotel. And people were still waiting. Well, what's everybody doing? Is everybody leaving? And she looked around and she saw a Hilton in the back. She ran over to the Hilton, booked a room, and there were hundreds of other people trying to get rooms hours later, but she quickly got one because she realized there are flames in this hotel.
Oh my gosh. We're not going back in tonight.
But people are waiting to be told what to do.
That's true. That is
and
so true.
It was the greatest example to me of what you were just saying.
Yes.
People need to be told. And even if they don't ask, I think it's our job to let them know. If they're looking for transformation, there are steps that need to be taken. And this is the roadmap to that.
Absolutely.
If it were just as easy as having me in for an hour, I said I would put this in a pill and be having an umbrella drink on a beach somewhere.
Yes.
But it's just not that easy. It's not.
No, I totally agree. And it's really funny that we're talking about this, because one of the things I always say when somebody comes to me and says, can I just have an hour? Can I just buy an hour? What do you think we're going to accomplish in an hour? Yeah. I mean, really, I'm not here to just take your money and sell you something that's not going to help you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But in a sense, when you're on a stage and that's what you're doing, and you walk away and you have nothing else to offer, and you have no other way for them to go deeper, and you're not showing them what they need beyond that stage, then not only are you leaving a lot of money on the table, but you're also not really serving people the way you can.
Well, and this is one of the reasons I think, and it doesn't surprise either one of us, that motivational speakers just aren't working anymore. And haven't been for the last 10 years.
Because it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And because what it is, I worked for a speakers bureau, hired me to work with their agents to sell speakers years ago. And I talked to their biggest corporate client. And I said, I'd love to talk to your biggest corporate client for a few minutes. And I got on the phone with this guy. And the first thing he said to me was, Lois, tell this stinking bureau to quit sending me motivational speakers. And I said, tell me why you say that. And he said, I liken motivational speaking to cotton candy. It looks like it has a lot of substance, but it dissipates too quickly.
Yes.
And, I will never forget this call. It was a gift to me to be able to talk to this gentleman. And I have said, speakers, what people want from you are high content programs with steps you can start taking immediately.
That is on page 4 of your book, and I underlined that.
And it really is true. And I have had some
brilliant,
terrific motivational speakers who are my clients, and I tell people that there are a few motivational speakers who are really doing well. Like Jack Canfield is a client of mine. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling him to quit motivational speaking. He seems to be doing pretty well on his own. But I say that's taken. For most of us mere mortals, they're looking for high content, practical information.
Yes, things they can apply. And I think the cotton candy metaphor or analogy that's really a great way to look at it too. It's just fluffy, and we have too much information and all of that at our fingertips that I just think fluffy, tickling the ears days are over, because
I don't have time for it. I don't have the patience.
I don't either. I don't either. So,
corporations now are demanding more for their money, and they certainly have every right to do so. Absolutely. If I were a decision maker bringing a speaker in, I wouldn't want somebody who to just tell me stories.
Sure.
That aren't going to impact my bottom line.
Yes.
And so, I have a lot of people approach me by saying, I want to be a motivational speaker. And the first thing I say is, you probably don't.
Yeah. I want to bring up a point too. And I don't remember if you and I talked about this, Lois, but I have an expert book. You have an expert book. And one of the things I highly recommend is that people have an expert book that drives them to the transformation that you can help them get. What are your thoughts around that? So when we're talking about motivation versus real expertise and really transforming people, what are your thoughts around that?
My thoughts are going to be exactly what you're going to expect me to say. You absolutely should have one. And I will share with you, Ann, that I waited too long to put mine out. But in my defense, and I need one, I had a notebook that I put out, a binder, shortly after I started my business. It had sections And this was before all of the digital stuff. Okay.
Right.
It was back in the olden days. And in fact, my husband, my daughter, and I used to put them together at my dining room table. And I remember back then, Ann, some other speakers, well-meaning speakers, would say, Lois, this is great, but you really need a book. You'll make money on a book. And I said, what do you make on a book? And they said, well, I make $5 for every book I sell. I said, really? I make $75 for each notebook I sell. I'm not unhappy. But really, I think a book is one of those things that it allows people to take a deeper dive into your expertise. Mm-hmm. And I tell clients, before you work with me, you might want to read my book. You'll get much more out of working with me if you read my book. Because I come from, I am opinionated. I've been here a long time, and I feel like I have a sense of what works and a real good sense of what doesn't work. I've done a lot of the stuff that doesn't work, but through my clients, I really know what does work. And I think having a book to use as a product, as an income stream, but also as a business card, quite frankly.
Oh, yes.
I have given away as many books as I have sold. And believe me, I joyfully gave my books away.
Yes.
Before I wrote my book, Ann, I said, I wonder if there's enough call for it. I have such a niche business working with speakers and consultants. And I remember that I told some friends, I said, well, I'm going to write the book and it's going to sell in the tens. Not the tens of thousands, in the tens. And that's if my family buys. And lo and behold, this book came out and it has done incredibly well. There's not been 1 month where I've not gotten a royalty check on it.
Yes.
And I've given away, like I said, probably as many.
Yeah, I love it.
It makes a big difference. I think it makes a big difference.
But that's so different too from like, I see a lot of people that want to write books to tell their story. For motivation. And then they want to go speak on that. And again, that goes back to, and I always say, look, people will enjoy your story and they'll buy your book, but they're not going to pay you big bucks unless there's just really something incredible there. They're not going to pay you big dollars to come.
Well, this is something that I hear all the time. I want to speak because I want to tell my story. And I always say, with all due respect, and the trouble's coming when I feel like
we could probably say this together. Nobody cares about you.
Yes,
right.
What they want to know is, if you have a story, how can I use that story to enhance my life, my business, my career? That's the only reason for telling a story.
That's
Any story in business is how it can positively affect change in my life, in my career. And I've worked with some people with incredible stories, but the stories always are a metaphor for a bigger transition. And that's what it really needs to be.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I know you and I could sit on here for a couple of hours. I don't know if anybody would listen to us for a couple of hours, but hey, this has been so much fun. I just thank you so much for sharing your expertise. You gave so much gold in here. There's so much value. Hopefully people gain a lot from this conversation and all the different things that we talked about. So how can people get a hold of you? And if you are looking for someone who can really take you through and help you get on stages and do everything that speaking is all about, definitely look up Lois and reach out to her. But what are some ways people can get a hold of
my website is bookmorebusiness.com.
Okay. And that's her book.
It's the title of my book. It's the name of my business. And it's the title of every speech I ever give. The difference is the subtitle that goes beyond the colon.
Correct. Yes.
But bookmorebusiness.com, you can reach out to me through my website. I'm all over social media, so connect with me and feel free to reach out if you have any questions so I can help you in any way.
And she's also a sweetheart. You can just see how personable she is, and she's an amazing woman. And I'm so honored to know you, and I'm so grateful.
I feel the same way. I've got a lot to learn from you, my friend. So I appreciate you, and I'm so happy that we connected and honored to be on your podcast. Thanks for asking me.
Well, bless you. Thank you. And everyone, make sure you check in with Lois and connect with her, and we'll put all the links and everything in the show notes. So thank you all so much, Lois. Thank you again. And we will talk to you next time. God bless you all. Bye-bye. If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business, and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.